Hey, hold up. Where do you think you're going?
I'm heading to my flight.
That flight? You working it or just trying to get on it?
I'm the pilot.
All right, let's not do that. ID.
It's right here. You can verify it.
I said government ID.
Okay.
Thank you for waiting. Passengers traveling to Denver, you don't look like a pilot.
I'm in uniform.
Uniform.
At exactly 7:42 a.m., inside Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, a police officer stopped a uniformed pilot just steps away from his gate. Within minutes, the situation turned physical, and what followed would cost more than anyone in that terminal expected. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because the next story is one you don't want to miss. Officer Devin Markell had been with airport security for just over 11 years. He was 39, known among some of his colleagues for being strict, but among others for going too far. There had been prior complaints, nothing that removed him from duty, but enough that his name had come up more than once in internal reviews. Most of those reports described the same pattern: unnecessary escalation, confrontational tone, and a tendency to single people out based on assumptions rather than clear cause. Still, he remained on active assignment, working high-traffic areas where authority was rarely questioned. That morning, he was positioned near the secured boarding access at Concourse B when he noticed a man in a pilot's uniform approaching the gate with a steady pace, flight bag in hand. Markell stepped forward before the man could pass. "Hey, you, hold up." Darius stopped. He was 41, a senior commercial pilot with over a decade of flight experience, based out of Atlanta. His uniform was standard, dark navy jacket with captain's stripes, ID badge clipped and visible. He had just finished a crew briefing and was heading toward his aircraft to begin pre-flight procedures. Nothing about his movement was rushed or unusual. "What's the issue?" Darius asked, calm. Markell positioned himself directly in front of him, blocking the path completely. "Where do you think you're going?" he asked. Darius glanced briefly toward the gate, then back at him. "I'm heading to my flight." "That flight?" Markell nodded toward the boarding lane. "Yes." Markell looked him over slowly, his expression flat, unconvinced. "You working it or trying to get on it?" There was a slight pause. "I'm the pilot," Darius said. Markell let out a short breath, almost a quiet scoff. "All right," he said, "let's not do that." Darius didn't respond immediately. "Do what?" "Pretend. ID." Darius nodded once and lifted his badge, holding it where it was clearly visible. "Airline ID. You can verify it." Markell barely looked at it. "I said ID," he repeated. "Government issued." Darius kept his tone steady. "All right." He set his bag down slowly and reached into his pocket, pulling out his wallet, and handed over his license without hesitation. Markell took it and read the name out loud. Darius Okonkwo. Again, there was something in the way he said it. He looked up. "You're from here," Darius replied. "I'm based here." "That's not what I asked," Markell said, sharper. Darius held eye contact. "I work out of Atlanta." Markell stepped closer, close enough that Darius had to shift slightly just to stay balanced. "You don't look like a pilot." It was quiet, but people nearby heard it. Darius didn't react immediately. "I'm in uniform." "Yeah, uniforms don't mean much." Darius took a controlled breath. "Then verify it. That's what it's there for." Markell tilted his head slightly, studying him. "You in a hurry?" "My crew is waiting. Pre-flight checks." Markell ignored that. "Step back," he said. Darius didn't move. "I'm not interfering with anything." "I said step back." "I'm standing still." That was enough. Markell reached forward and shoved him. It was sudden, direct, not enough to knock him down, but enough to force him back a step. A few people nearby stopped walking. Darius regained his balance quickly, hands slightly raised but controlled. "There's no need for that." "Then stop making this difficult," Markell snapped. "I've given you my ID, and I'm still looking at you," Markell replied. There was no attempt to verify anything, no radio call, no scan, just judgment. Darius's voice stayed level. "You can call the airline. They'll confirm everything." Markell shook his head. "No, we're handling it right here." A couple standing off to the side paused completely now. One of them pulled out a phone. Markell stepped closer again, lowering his voice slightly, but keeping the edge. "You think you can just walk through here and nobody's going to check you? I didn't say that. Then why are you acting like this?" "I'm cooperating." Markell's jaw tightened. "Doesn't look like it." Darius glanced briefly toward the gate again. Staff were starting to move behind the counter. Boarding wasn't far off. "Look," Darius said, keeping it direct, "if there's a concern, verify it properly. There's no reason to escalate this." Markell didn't respond to that. Instead, he reached out and placed a firm hand against Darius's chest, pushing him back again, this time holding him there for a second. "Stay right there." Now more people were watching, not just passing glances, stopped, focused attention. Darius didn't push his hand away, he didn't raise his voice, but his expression changed. "You're making a scene for no reason," he said. Markell leaned in slightly. "No, you are." A woman a few feet away adjusted her phone, clearly recording now. "Listen carefully," Markell continued. "You're not going anywhere until I figure out exactly what you're doing here. I already told you, and I told you I don't believe you." There it was, clear, direct, not confusion, not procedure, decision. Darius held his gaze, steady but firm. "Then verify it." Markell's grip tightened slightly before he let go. He took half a step back, still blocking the path. "You're not stepping another foot near that plane." Behind them, movement at the gate had slowed. One of the airline staff was now watching closely, her expression shifting from routine focus to concern. Passengers nearby had stopped pretending not to notice. Phones were out. Eyes were locked in, and standing there in full uniform being held in place without cause, Darius Okonkwo understood something clearly. This wasn't a misunderstanding, and it wasn't going to end quickly. What neither of them realized yet was that this moment was already drawing attention from people who had the authority to change everything.
"You're not stepping another foot near that plane," Markell said. Darius held his position, eyes fixed on him. "Then verify it." Markell didn't move. "I don't need to." "You do," Darius replied. "That's how this works." Markell shook his head slowly, like he was already done with the conversation. "No, that's how you think it works." Darius let that sit for a second. Around them, the crowd had grown. People weren't walking past anymore, they were stopping, watching, listening. "You've got my ID," Darius said. "You've got my airline badge. There's nothing else to guess." Markell stepped closer again, closing the small space Darius had maintained. "I don't guess," he said. "I read situations." "Then you're reading this wrong." That was enough. Markell reached forward and grabbed the front of Darius's jacket again, this time tighter, pulling him slightly off balance. "Stop correcting me," he said. A few people reacted immediately. Murmurs, a sharp "hey" from somewhere in the crowd. Darius steadied himself, hands still down. "Take your hand off me." Markell held it there for a second longer, then released him with a short shove. "Then stop acting like you're in charge," he said. "I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to get to work." Markell gave a quick, dismissive laugh. Work. He looked Darius up and down again, slower this time, like he was reinforcing something in his own mind. "You walk up here, dressed like that, and expect nobody to question it? I expect you to verify it." Markell ignored that. "You don't look like someone flying that aircraft." There it was again. Clear enough now that people around them reacted, subtle shifts, looks exchanged. Darius's voice stayed level. "That's not a requirement." "It is to me." Darius exhaled slowly. "That's the problem." Markell's expression tightened. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you've already decided what this is," Darius said, "without checking anything." Markell stepped in again, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. You keep talking like you know what I'm thinking. I don't have to guess, Darius replied. You're showing it. That hit. Markell's jaw set, and without warning, he placed a firm hand on Darius's chest and pushed him back again, harder this time. Darius took a step back to keep his balance. The crowd reacted more openly now. All right, that's enough, someone said from behind. A phone lifted higher, trying to get a clear view. Darius raised one hand slightly, not defensive, controlled. You need to stop putting your hands on me. Then stop giving me a reason, Markell shot back. I haven't given you one. Markell shook his head. You standing here arguing with me is reason enough. I'm answering your questions. You're avoiding them. I'm not. Yes, you are. Darius paused, then said it clearly. Call the airline. Markell didn't respond. Call the gate. They'll confirm everything in seconds. Still nothing. Instead, Markell looked past him briefly, scanning the area, then back at him. No, we're not doing that. Darius frowned slightly. Why not? Because I don't need anyone else to tell me what I'm looking at. That line settled heavily in the air. Darius nodded once, slow. So, this isn't about verification. Markell didn't answer. It's about what you think I am. Markell stepped forward again, voice dropping. Watch how you say that. I'm saying exactly what's happening. You don't get to turn this into something it's not. It already is. That was the moment the tone shifted again, less questioning, more control. Markell reached for his radio. Unit 3, I need assistance at Concourse B, possible impersonation. The word carried. People reacted immediately. Impersonation? Someone repeated quietly. Darius's head turned slightly back toward him. You're calling this impersonation? That's what it looks like, Markell said. To you, Darius replied. Markell lowered the radio. That's enough for me. From behind the counter, Amara Okafor stepped forward slightly, her voice cautious. Officer, he's part of the crew. Markell turned sharply. Ma'am, step back. She hesitated. I've seen him before. I said, step back, Markell repeated, louder this time. She stopped where she was. Darius glanced at her briefly, then back at Markell. You're ignoring confirmation. I'm ignoring interference. That's not interference. It is right now. Darius paused, then said it clearly. You're escalating this. Markell stepped forward again and placed a hand on Darius's shoulder, gripping tighter this time. No, you did that when you decided to stand here and lie. Darius didn't react physically, but his voice dropped. I haven't lied once. Markell's grip tightened for a second before he let go. We'll figure that out, he said. Behind them, more staff had started to gather. Conversations were low, tense. Phones were still up. No one was stepping in, but no one was ignoring it either. Darius stood there, still in full uniform, still being held in place, while the one person controlling the situation refused to check the simplest fact. And as distant footsteps began to echo faintly from down the concourse, approaching, steady, it became clear this wasn't settling down. It was expanding. And once more people got involved, there was no way this stayed contained. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder, cutting through the tension that had settled over the gate. Markell heard it too, but he didn't turn around immediately. His focus stayed on Darius. We'll figure that out, he had just said. Darius didn't respond. He stood still, hands relaxed at his sides, but his attention shifted briefly past Markell toward whoever was coming. Within seconds, 2 additional airport security officers came into view, moving quickly but not running. Behind them, a woman in a dark blazer and airline badge followed with purpose.
Markell finally stepped back half a pace, just enough to acknowledge their presence without giving up control of the situation. "I've got it handled," he said, before either of them could speak. One of the officers glanced at Darius, then at Markell. "What's going on?" "Possible impersonation," Markell replied. "He's claiming to be assigned to the aircraft at this gate." There was a brief pause. The second officer looked directly at Darius, taking in the uniform, the badge, the posture. "Did you verify his credentials?" he asked. Markell didn't answer right away. "I looked at what I needed to," he said. "That's not what I asked," the officer replied. Before Markell could respond, the woman in the blazer stepped forward. Monique Delaroche didn't raise her voice, but her presence shifted the entire scene. She was composed, direct, and clearly not there to observe. "What's happening here?" she asked. Her eyes moved from Markell to Darius, then briefly to the small crowd still watching. Markell straightened slightly. "Ma'am, we're dealing with a situation involving—" "That's Captain Okonkwo," Monique said, cutting him off. The correction landed immediately. There was a short silence. Markell looked at her. "Excuse me?" "That is Captain Darius Okonkwo," she repeated, calm and precise. "He's assigned to this flight." Markell's expression didn't change right away, but something in his posture shifted. "That hasn't been confirmed," he said. Monique looked at him directly. "It has, by me." Another pause. The two additional officers exchanged a quick glance. Darius said nothing. He just watched. Markell exhaled slightly, like he wasn't ready to accept it. "With respect, I still need to verify—" "Then you should have done that before escalating," Monique replied. Her tone didn't rise, but it was firm enough that the surrounding noise seemed to drop. Markell's jaw tightened. He was being uncooperative. Darius spoke for the first time since they arrived. "I gave you my ID." "You argued," Markell shot back. "I answered your questions," Darius replied. Monique turned back to Markell. "Did he refuse identification?" Markell hesitated. "No." "Did he attempt to bypass security?" "No." "Did he threaten you in any way?" Markell didn't answer immediately. "No," he said, finally. Another short silence followed. Monique nodded once. "Then explain why he's being detained." Markell shifted slightly. "Because something didn't add up." "What didn't add up?" she asked. Markell gestured vaguely toward Darius. "Him." That answer didn't help. Monique's expression hardened slightly. "That's not a valid reason." Markell's voice sharpened. "I'm responsible for security here, and I'm responsible for this aircraft and my crew, which includes him." The second officer stepped in slightly, trying to level the situation. "All right, let's slow this down." But the dynamic had already changed. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore, they were listening closely, and now there were multiple perspectives in play. Darius adjusted his stance slightly, finally shifting his weight after standing in place for so long. "Can I go to my aircraft now?" he asked, direct. Markell answered before anyone else could. "No." Monique looked at him. "On what basis?" "I'm not finished here," Markell said. "With what?" she asked. "With figuring out what's going on." Monique held his gaze. "What's going on is that you stopped a verified pilot, put your hands on him, and refused to check his credentials." Markell didn't respond. One of the other officers looked at him. "Did you make physical contact?" Another pause. "I guided him back," Markell said. Darius spoke immediately. "You shoved me." The officer's eyes moved back to Markell. I exhaled slightly. "He was resisting." "I wasn't," Darius said. Monique turned slightly toward Darius. "Did he comply with his requests?" "Yes," Darius replied. "Every time." Markell shook his head. "That's not accurate." "It is," Darius said. The tension tightened again, but it was different now. Markell wasn't controlling the situation anymore. He was being questioned. Monique took a small step forward, her voice still calm, but sharper now. "Officer, I need you to understand something clearly. You are delaying an active aircraft member from performing his duties without cause." Markell's posture stiffened. "I had cause." "No," she said.
You had an assumption. That landed harder than anything else so far. The first officer shifted his stance slightly. All right, let's do this properly. We'll verify his credentials through the system and move forward from there. That should have been done already, Monique said. Markell didn't respond. The second officer turned to Darius. Sir, do you still have your ID? Darius nodded and handed it again, along with his airline badge. This time it was actually examined, properly. The officer looked at it, then into his device, scanning and checking. It took less than 30 seconds. He looked back up. He's confirmed, the officer said. Simple, clear, final. A few people in the crowd reacted quietly, murmurs, small shakes of the head. Monique didn't say anything right away. She just looked at Markell. Markell's expression had changed now, not fully, but enough. The certainty was gone, replaced with something else. And for the first time since the situation started, he didn't have immediate control over what happened next. Darius took a slow breath, steady. Can I go to my aircraft now? He asked. There was a pause, but this time Markell wasn't the one deciding, and as the weight of what had just been confirmed settled into the space around them, it became clear this wasn't ending with a simple release. This was about to turn into something much bigger than a gate-side confrontation.
Am I free to go now? Darius asked. The second officer nodded. Yes, sir, you're confirmed. Darius took his ID back. Thank you. He turned to Monique. My crew's waiting. Go, she said. Darius picked up his bag and walked toward the gate. Calm. No reaction, no words to the crowd. People stepped aside. Some were still recording. One voice quietly, "That's crazy." Another, "He didn't even check." Darius didn't respond. He went straight into the aircraft. Back at the gate, the focus shifted to Markell. Monique faced him. You stopped a verified pilot, refused to check his credentials, and put your hands on him. Markell shook his head. Something wasn't right. That's not a reason. That's an assumption. One of the officers stepped in. Why didn't you verify his ID? Markell didn't answer. You called it impersonation without checking anything, the officer added. Markell looked away briefly. I made a judgment call. The officer replied, That's not how this works. A supervisor arrived moments later. What happened? He asked. The officer answered directly. He detained a pilot without verification and used physical force. The supervisor turned to Markell. Is that correct? Markell hesitated. I had concerns. What concerns? The supervisor asked. Markell paused, then said it again. He didn't match. The supervisor held his gaze. Didn't match what? Markell had no answer. All right, the supervisor said. You're stepping off duty for now. Markell frowned slightly. Off duty? Pending review, the supervisor replied. No argument this time. Markell stepped back. At the gate, boarding resumed. Inside the cockpit, Darius was already running his checks like nothing happened. Professional, focused, back to work. But outside that aircraft, the situation wasn't over. Multiple people had recorded everything. The report was already being filed, and once that footage got reviewed, there wouldn't be any confusion about what happened. No missing details, no assumptions, just clear actions. What started as a routine stop at 7:42 a.m. didn't end at the gate. For Officer Devin Markell, it turned into a formal investigation that wasn't going away anytime soon. If this story made you think, drop your opinion in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Culture Scope for more real stories that matter.